Hi, I'm Mindy Pope, and I'm here to show you how to prepare your theatrical design entries for submission in a digital format. There are several different ways you could do this. I'm just showing you the way that I've been doing it the last few years, and it seems to work really well. I'm the coach at Stephenville High School, and I've been coaching theatrical design for 11, 12 years, and really enjoy it and love what it does for my kids. So let's look at some examples. Okay, so to start with, I use Google as my primary tool for theatrical design. The benefits of Google is that students, if they have a Google account, with hopefully your school's a Google school for education, but the benefit of it is that it makes sharing and communicating so easy, which is really awesome if you're having to work with virtual students or in a virtual setting. So it's easy to make highlight things and make comments to students so that they can edit. It's easy for them to share their work with you through Google, and then best of all, everything saves. And so once it's in Google, it's automatically saved, and that I love that we don't lose work. So every year I create a folder called, whatever year it is. I'm looking at last year's submissions. So I have a folder that was called 2020 Theatrical Design Files for State Submission. So these would be the ones that we have selected as our state finalist that we're planning to send to state. So I create a Google slide. The benefit of using Google Slides is that everything is, you can edit everything. It's easy to add images. You can change the size of the slide to fit the contest parameters, and it just works really well. Then you can just download it as a PDF to upload it into the contest. So here's my folder that has my contest pieces in it. And what I like to do is to create, what I'll actually do this year when I get ready to make these is I'll go back and I'll open up one of last year's entries, and I will make a copy of it, and then I'll delete all the work out of it. And so I've got this template, and so there's pieces there ready to fill in, and I know what's missing, and the student knows what they need to be putting in there as well. Um, and of course I'll modify it because we have some changes this year with what's required. So let's look at so this is what the file looks like with my entries in it. Notice I make a cover page that has the name of the show, what it is they're entering, and then the student's name. Let's look at some individual entries to kind of see what they look like. So this is an individual marketing campaign. The first thing you're going to want to do is go through and change the size of the slide. The change that you make is going to be for every single slide. So sometimes it's a little problematic. Maybe you don't want every slide to be that size, but I just go with the largest size I need, and then it'll work for the contest. And we haven't had too many problems. So if you'll go to File, Page Setup, click on it, and here you're going to want to pick Custom. And then you could pick what size you want. So for marketing, for this one is set up as just a standard sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11. If I wanted to go ahead and make it the size of the poster, I could, but really for this digital format, making it just the size of a normal sheet of paper works for the proportions of the poster. So for marketing, I would just recommend 8.5 by 11. So I apply it, and now all my slides are going to be that size. I've got my cover page, which I think is, absolutely very, very important for organization. And it also makes it really clear to your judge exactly what they're looking at. Makes it easier just in case you accidentally clicked the wrong box or something. Rachel will be able to look at it and tell, okay, this is where it's supposed to be. Here's my prompt address statement that is now required. So this is just the little statement that's 100 words or less that is just showing how we address the prompt. And then I choose to do label slides because I want my judge to very clearly know what they're looking at. Also, it helps my students know, oh, hey, I'm missing this or I'm missing that. So here we have our justification paper. And then I just copy and paste the paper in. Please, please, please do not allow your students to take a photograph of their printed out paper and place it here. Um, as I'm speaking as a judge in the first rounds, it is so incredibly hard to read those papers. Here, it looks very small, but as a judge, I'm going to be able to hit the plus button and make it like, for example, let me show you. If I say I want to present this, now that's very readable. And then as a judge, when this is a PDF, I can even hit a plus button and make it bigger if I want to. But this is very readable. A photograph of a printed out paper rarely is readable. And this is the paper is critical. I mean, the it outlines, it frames everything for the judge. It frames what they're going to be looking at. That's why it's first, is so that the judge can read it and kind of have a clue of what they're looking at, the inspiration, the thought process. So if you're turning in a paper that's not really legible, it's a problem. And so make sure I just cut and paste it into this, and now it'll be very easy to read. Inspiration board. Now we choose to do a digital inspiration board for the first round. When you go to if you qualify for state, then you'll want to make it a 3-dimensional texture, based sort of inspiration board. But here we just do a digital one. That's just a choice we make. You certainly can physically make the inspiration board and take a photograph of it and put it in here. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Our marketing calendar, this was just a format that we found that we liked. And so I just cut and pasted our calendar in there. And then our poster. So you can see it's sized a little different and it has like this little white border, but that's okay. When I click on it and look at it in the big picture, it looks just fine. It looks great for the judge to be able to see that. And then we had, in this case, it was a digital program. So I had the link here with the QR code. And then I also went ahead and included the actual images from it just in case there were issues. This year, we don't have to do the digital program, so you won't need to include this. So you'll just have your program here. Again, I highly recommend, since your students, I'm sure, are probably going to make the program digitally, that you put the digital images here. So like I'm showing one page at a time. You could show, like the open program, but taking a photograph of a printed program and placing it in here, I feel like it puts you at a disadvantage. It makes it much harder for the judge to look at your work and evaluate it. You can do it, but I just recommend that you don't. I recommend that you give us the digital version of it. It could be a screenshot, whatever works best for you. But I recommend you pop it up here as clearly as possible for the judge to be able to look at. Here we have the study guide. Same thing. I don't recommend you take photographs of the printed study guide, even though that's what you would be turning in at state. I recommend that you put the digital version here, so that it's as easy as possible for the judge to look at. So that's marketing. That's what looks like for marketing. Here is hair and makeup. So again, we have our cover page, prompt address statement, justification paper. I think on this one, let's look at what size we have it set up as. Page setup. Okay, so we set this one up as a 10 by 15 because that's what size most of the plates would be for hair and makeup. We have our inspiration collage. And then here we have a female plate. And then I like to put the name of the character here. So there's our rendering. Notice we do have our makeup swatches down here. And then there's our application. And then of course we have the sustainability aspect that we don't have this year. Mail plate, rendering, application, and then designer's choice. And we did Rosara. Okay, so there's an example of hair and makeup, a sample of costuming. Now, in this case, our costumer did designs that fit in a landscape format better. So we chose to do landscape for this one. So if you come down, let's see what page setup we have. We are doing 15 by 10, but I either do 15 by 10 or 10 by 15 for costuming, because that's what size the plates typically are. I know there's an 11 by 17, but you can size it digitally to fit. So here's our prompt address statement, justification paper, inspiration collage, and then we have our characters. So this was what would have been an 11 by 17 plate with our characters, which are 3 characters on it. And then here we have our one character. Notice the the swatches of fabric, and those are just, I took pictures and I just popped them on there. Um, Same thing here. Last little plate. And then of course the sustainability aspect, which is part of last year's design. Set design, we definitely will want it to be a landscape setup. And so let's go look at page setup and see what we did here. 17 by 11, which is the size of the biggest thing that you'll make in this. So we have prompt address statement. Notice on the justification paper, I chose to just do like 2 columns and put the paper on here. You don't have to do it that way. That was just a choice I made to make it a little bit easier to read for the judge. Inspiration collage. Notice everything's labeled. Here's our 11 by 17 rendering. That you can scan it in, or it can be a photograph of the student's work, unless it's digital. And then of course, if it's digital, it's easy to pop it in there. Here's our 5 by 7 sketches that she did. And then our ground plan, which we just scanned in. You can see that that's just an image that we scanned in and popped in there. And then lastly, I wanted to show you in our group entry, notice that that is 4 different files. The first year that we did the digital submission, I think what we discovered was that putting it all together as one group was too large of an upload, and we had issues with that. So now it is divided up into 4 sections. You have your costuming, your hair and makeup, marketing, and set design. And you'll turn them all in the same submission, but as 4 separate files, and it uploads, I believe, much easier. So here's a group design, for example. Notice I have group design, marketing, and the name of the student, the name of the show. We have our prompt address statement again, justification paper, and then just like our other, it's just exactly like the individual designs. We have each piece labeled, and then we have our submission there. So let's say that I'm ready to submit this to the state. I've got my files all ready. I've double checked that all my pieces are there. I've proofread that paper for my students to make sure that it makes sense and that they've done correct grammar and that it's the best that we can send. Feel free, if that's not your forte, maybe ask an English teacher or someone if they'd be willing to proof those for you. And then now that we're ready to send this in and all pieces are in there, please double check. Your job as a coach is to make sure your student has uploaded all the pieces to the file. If you turn in a submission that's missing a piece, you risk your student being disqualified. So you want to make sure all the pieces are there. Every part of it is required. The way I share these with students is I just use the share button and I share it with my students, and that way they have access to this file and they can input and add their own work as they finish it. And then I'm just there to proofread it and make sure all the pieces are there. So let's say this group is done. I'm ready to turn it in. I'm going to go to File, Download, and I'm going to download it as a PDF. That's going to download my whole slide presentation as one package. If you save it as a JPEG, it's only going to save one slide at a time. So you don't want to do it that way. You want to do it as a PDF. It uploads really nicely on the website. So I'm going to show you the file that's downloaded. So it's a PDF. I would change the name to what the contest says it needs to be. So the contest, it's something like it has the name of your school, it has the year, it has several things that are required. So you'll just change the name of this PDF, and now you'll see it's just one file that I can just scroll through, and it looks really nice for the judges. The judges are going to see just this and see these pieces. It's showing up as 2 slides at a time. I'm not sure why, but it'll look really nice for your judges. It'll be nice and big for them to be able to look at and evaluate. So I hope this was helpful. And I know Rachel is available for questions, but I will tell you, don't wait till the last minute to try to get this ready. Go ahead and make your template and share it with your students. And then as they get pieces ready for competition, go ahead and have them plug them in. And that way you have, you've got that work started early, and then you can go through and save it and have it ready for upload in plenty of time. If you wait until the day before or the day of to start making these, that's when you're going to run into questions and problems and things like that. And then you're running out of time and you're in a panic. So make these early, share them with your students, and let them, upload their information, their paper, their work as they get it finished. Um, this is certainly not the only way that you can turn in the digital submission. If you're more comfortable with PowerPoint, you can do something very similar with PowerPoint. It just may be a little harder to share between you and the student. This is just the way that I've been doing it for the last several years, and it seems to work great. We've never had a problem with a file uploading, and it makes things much smoother and much calmer for me and my students. So we know what's expected. We know what pieces we're missing. We know where everything is. We don't lose work. And we get everything in on time. So good luck. I hope you and your students have a great time working with Man of La Mancha. My students and I are having a great time getting immersed into the play and looking for inspiration. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Rachel Gomez, our contest manager, and I know she will help you. And I'm available too. My name is Mindy Pope. I'm Stephenville High School, and I'll give you. How about I give you my email? So that's the best way to reach me. There's my email address. So, if you try to reach out to me a couple days before the contest is due, I might be pretty busy. But if you have any other questions or concerns or anything that I can help you with, I don't mind helping with helping you get your digital submission prepared. So good luck, and I hope you and your students have a lot of fun with this year's contest.